Attention! If you are over 60 and you still have not learned this lesson, please listen carefully today, because this one mistake has destroyed more families than almost anything else I have seen in my lifetime. Here is what I mean. After 60, there are 3 things about your retirement savings that you should never tell your children. Not because you don't love them. Not because you don't trust them. But because of what happens to a family once money enters a conversation that was never meant to carry it. I want to say clearly, this is not advice about being secretive out of spite. This is not advice about punishing your children or keeping them in the dark forever. This is something deeper. This is about protecting your peace, protecting your independence, and protecting the relationships you have spent a lifetime building. Welcome back, my friends, to Eternal Flame Wisdom. If this is your first time here, I am so glad you found us. Every week, we sit together and talk honestly about the parts of growing older that nobody else wants to discuss. Today's topic is one I hesitated to record for a long time, because it touches something sensitive. But after so many messages from people just like you, I knew it was time. So let's begin. After 60, here are the 3 things about your retirement savings you should never tell your children, and the reasoning behind each one. These lessons did not come to me quickly. They came slowly, through mistakes, through awkward dinners, through years of watching friends and family members learn the hard way. I made some of these mistakes myself. I am sharing them now so that you do not have to. The first thing I stopped telling my children was the exact number. For years, I believed that honesty meant full transparency. I believed that if I loved my children, I should tell them everything, including precisely how much money my wife and I had saved for retirement. I thought this was responsible. I thought it prepared them for the future. I thought it built trust. I was wrong, and I learned this the hard way. The moment my oldest son learned the exact figure in our retirement account, something shifted. It was subtle at first. A comment here. A suggestion there. Slowly, conversations that used to be about family, about grandchildren, about simple everyday life, began circling back to money. Should we help with a down payment? Should we consider early inheritance? Should we think about using some of that money now instead of later? None of this came from a bad place. My son is a good man. But once a number enters a family's awareness, it changes how people see you. You stop being simply their father or mother. You become, quietly, a resource, an asset, a future event they are, without meaning to, keeping half an eye on. When you're younger, you don't think about this. You assume family relationships are immune to money's influence. But age teaches you otherwise. Money changes the emotional weather of every room it enters, even among people who love each other deeply. I remember a friend of mine, a retired schoolteacher, who told her 3 children the exact size of her pension and her savings account during a holiday dinner, thinking it would ease their worries about her future. Within a year, one child began pressuring her to move in with them to save money. Another began asking pointed questions about her will. The third stopped visiting altogether, uncomfortable with the tension the topic had created. She told me later, with tears in her eyes, that she wished she had simply said, "I am taken care of. Don't worry about me." That sentence, she said, would have protected everyone. So now, when my children ask how we are doing financially, I say the truth in a different form. We are comfortable. We are secure. We have planned carefully. That is all they need to know, and honestly, it is all that serves the relationship well. The exact number was never the important part. The peace of mind was. The second thing I stopped telling my children was our plan for inheritance. This one is even more delicate, and I want to explain it carefully, because I know some of you will disagree with me, and that is all right. For a long time, I believed that fairness meant announcing everything in advance. I believed if I told my children exactly how the estate would be divided, it would prevent conflict later. I thought clarity today would mean peace tomorrow. But here is what nobody tells you. The moment children know the details of an inheritance, it stops being a gift and starts becoming an expectation. And expectations, once formed, are very difficult to unform. I watched this happen to a couple I knew from church. They told their 2 daughters, years in advance, exactly how the house and savings would be split. It seemed generous and transparent at the time. But slowly, one daughter began making life decisions based on that future money. She took on more debt than she should have, quietly comforted by the thought of what was coming. When the parents, later in life, needed to spend some of that money on medical care, on home modifications, on simply living the retirement they had earned, the daughter felt, in her own words, cheated. Not because anything wrong had happened, but because an expectation had quietly replaced gratitude. This broke my heart to witness, because the parents had done nothing wrong. They had simply lived their own lives with their own money, which was always their right. That is why now, when the subject of inheritance comes up, I keep it simple. We have a will. It is fair. It reflects our wishes. Beyond that, the details are between us and our attorney until the appropriate time. Not because I don't trust my children, but because I refuse to let a future dollar amount shape how they see their present relationship with me. I want them visiting because they love me, not because they are managing an outcome. Some of you may feel this sounds cold. I understand that reaction. But I promise you, after decades of watching families quietly poisoned by early inheritance conversations, I believe protecting the mystery protects the love. The third thing I stopped telling my children was how I actually spend my money now. This might surprise you, because it seems like such a small thing. But let me explain what I mean. When you retire, especially after 70, your children often develop a quiet, well-meaning habit of monitoring you. They notice the new furniture. They notice the vacation photos. They notice the restaurant receipts if you happen to leave them out. And slowly, without any bad intention, they begin forming opinions about how wisely you are living. I remember mentioning, casually, that my wife and I had booked a fairly expensive trip to celebrate our anniversary. A well-meaning comment came back from one of my children. "Are you sure that's a good idea right now, with prices the way they are?" It was said gently, out of love, out of concern. But underneath it, I heard something else. A suggestion that perhaps I no longer had the right to enjoy my own money the way I wanted to. That stayed with me for a long time. Here is the truth I eventually accepted. I spent 40 years working, saving, sacrificing, and planning for this exact chapter of life. I do not owe anyone, not even the people I love most, an explanation for how I choose to spend the money I earned. If I want to take a trip, buy something nice, help a grandchild with tuition, or simply spend an afternoon at a nice restaurant without justifying the bill, that is entirely my right. So now, I keep the day-to-day details of my spending private. Not secretive in a dishonest way, simply private in a peaceful way. I do not report my purchases. I do not explain every decision. I do not defend my joy to anyone. And do you know what happened once I stopped? My relationship with my children actually improved. The subtle tension disappeared. Conversations returned to what they should always have been about. How are you feeling? What did you do this week? Tell me about the grandchildren. Not, quietly, an audit of how I was managing my own life. These 3 lessons did not come easily to me. They came from mistakes, from watching other families struggle, and eventually from choosing peace over full transparency. I want to be clear about something important before I continue. This is not about hiding money out of fear or distrust. This is not about punishing your children or treating them as suspects. Most children ask these questions out of love, out of genuine concern for your well-being. The problem is never their intentions. The problem is what knowledge does to relationships over time, even when everyone means well. Money has a strange power. It can turn concern into control without anyone noticing. It can turn love into monitoring. It can turn a simple family dinner into a quiet negotiation. And once that shift happens, it is very difficult to undo. I have thought about this often since I retired. Why does money do this to families, even good ones, even loving ones? I believe it is because money represents security, and once people believe they understand your security, they begin, often unconsciously, planning their own lives around it. This is not malice. This is simply human nature. That is why I protect these 3 things now. Not the exact number in our accounts. Not the specific details of our inheritance plan. Not the day-to-day decisions about how we spend what we have earned. What I do share freely is love, presence, wisdom, and time. Those are the inheritances that actually matter in the years we have left together. Those are the things my children will remember long after any number in a bank account has been spent or forgotten. If you are watching this today and you recognize yourself in some of these stories, I want you to know something. It is never too late to change how you handle these conversations. You do not need to make a dramatic announcement. You do not need to explain yourself or apologize for changing course. You can simply, gently, begin keeping certain things private and let your family relationships breathe again. Some of you may be thinking about your own children right now, wondering if these patterns have already begun in your family. Perhaps a comment about your spending. Perhaps a question about your will that felt slightly too pointed. Perhaps a suggestion about where you should live that had less to do with your comfort and more to do with convenience for someone else. If so, please hear me when I say this. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to keep some things private. You are allowed to enjoy the retirement you built without narrating every decision to anyone, even the people you love most in this world. Your children do not need your bank statements to know you love them. They need your presence, your stories, your laughter, your wisdom, and your time. Give them that generously. Everything else, you are allowed to keep quietly to yourself. Before I close today, I want to say something to those of you who may feel guilty for even considering this approach. Please release that guilt. Protecting your financial privacy is not selfish. It is not unloving. It is one of the wisest things you can do, both for your own peace and for the long-term health of your family relationships. I have seen too many families torn apart, not by lack of love, but by too much financial information shared too early, discussed too often, and allowed to quietly reshape how people see each other. Do not let that happen to your family. Keep your number private. Keep your inheritance plan simple and unspoken until the appropriate time. Keep your daily spending your own business. And watch how much lighter your family relationships become. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today here at Eternal Flame Wisdom. If these words meant something to you, please consider staying a little longer, sharing this with someone you love, and letting us know in the comments which of these 3 lessons resonated with you the most. I read every single one, and I am always moved by how many of you are walking the same road. Take care of yourselves this week. Protect your peace. Enjoy what you have built. And remember, you do not owe anyone an explanation for the life you worked so hard to earn. Until next time, my friends, this has been Eternal Flame Wisdom. I will see you in the next conversation.